Hi, within this lecture we're going to understand the usage of DNS. So we have talked about the IP addresses, we have briefly talked about virtual private networks as well, but we didn't talk about DNS. So DNS stands for Domain Name System, okay, or Domain Name Server. So it allows us to connect the domain name with the IP address, okay? So websites have IP addresses as well. So google.com actually has its own IP, or facebook.com actually has its own IP as well. And when we type google.com to a browser, it finds the IP address, it matches the IP with the domain name and try to go to that IP address. And this matching thing is done with DNS servers. So generally, when you go to the internet, when you browse the internet, your internet provider's DNS server do that for you. And even if you change the VPN, even if you use a VPN and try to change your public IP, there's a risk that your internet provider knows what you're doing because of the DNS server thing. So sometimes it's safer to change these DNS servers as well. And in order to confirm this, in order to show you in action, I'm going to go to my virtual machine once more. I'm going to clear this. Suppose that you're trying to go to Google. I'm going to use a command called ping. It will send one request to the google.com and it will tell me the result back. So I'm going to say ping google.com and hit enter. As you can see, I'm getting some results. Anytime you may want to go out of that, hit Ctrl+C on your keyboard at the same time. It will stop the current process in your terminal. As you can see, we are sending some ping request to the Google and it gives me back some new responses. And here is that the Google's public IP. So when I type google.com to my browser, it goes to this public IP. So you can know the public IPs of web addresses by typing ping google.com, ping facebook.com. Not every website actually lets us do this, but most of them do. So you may want to know the public IP of some web address for some reason. For example, we're going to do some web penetration testing later on through the course, and you're going to need this when you do that. But what I'm trying to do right now, what I'm trying to tell you, is these websites have their own IP addresses and we use DNS to match them with the domain names. So I'm going to stop here, but within the next lecture we're going to see how to change these domain servers and then later on introduce VPN in order to change our public IP address.